Okay, good morning, people. How we doing here this morning? I see Baja's here. Good morning, and KC's here. Thesis here. Good morning. Sorry. Banamer's here. Hi, Banamer and Jenna and Karen and Krish and Duong. Good morning to all of you. Hope everyone's doing okay this morning. Weather looks sort of so. Mashid's here. Good morning, Mashid. Um, Okay, so just I'll let a few more people trickle in. There's only 8 of us here at the moment, um, but I'll just sort of set you up for what we'll do today. First of all, don't forget that we'll do a quick oral quiz tomorrow, and we'll start that kind of right at 8 o'clock. I don't know how long it's going to take, um, but again, I'll do it in Microsoft Teams. I'll set up a meeting, and then we'll just have one person come in at a time. And maybe what I'll do is before that time, I'll just put a list of students um, into Microsoft Teams, so you'll know kind of what order to come in. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think you can see who is in the meeting with me at one time, so you can just kind of keep an eye on that. And when the previous person leaves, then the next person can come in. I think. Well, I think that's how it'll work. We'll see how it goes. We'll cross our fingers. Um, so we'll do that tomorrow. Keep in mind, of course, that I'd like your camera to be on. I'd like to actually physically see you, so you might have to get out of your pajamas. Okay, this is one morning, right? We can handle being out of pajamas for one morning. Um, yeah, so we'll do that tomorrow. Today, what I have for you is I'll talk for just a few minutes, and then, as I mentioned, I have a movie for us to watch. So we will. I'll talk for a little bit. I'll set you up for the movie. I'll sort of set you loose and let you watch part of the movie, and then we'll come back and maybe talk about a couple things if we can. Okay, that's the plan. If that all sounds cool, I'm going to hop into it here. Okay, so what we're talking about here at the moment, I'm sure you're aware, we're talking about socialization, right? The process by which we come to know the norms and values and beliefs of the society that we live in, right? And of course, we've all been part of this process already. We've all been socialized or enculturated, and we continue to be, right? We continue to learn um, new sort of behaviors and rules. Sometimes those things change, right? Sometimes values and social norms change a little bit. For some of us who have come from one country and are currently living in another, you're probably noticing that there are different social norms here in Canada, and so you have to kind of learn or figure out what they are or ask people what they are. So you're kind of in a socialization process here in Canada to kind of understand what social norms are right here. Um, yeah, and we said this is what norms are, right? They are instructions about how to behave in certain circumstances. And sometimes those are formal, so sometimes we actually have written rules and regulations about what you can and can't do. Um, but much more, uh, I think most of our norms are actually unwritten. And so they're rules about how we behave with each other, just in kind of regular life, right? Um, Now, we said that it was important to talk about this because these messages become internalized, right? They become a part of our software, a part of our programming. And so they, in many cases, they influence our behavior, sometimes in ways that we don't even notice, that we're not aware of. And so we want to pay attention to what those values are because, again, they sometimes influence what we say and what we do. Um, the second thing is that those the socialization, the social messages that we absorb, start to act as a lens through which we see the world, and so we interpret the world through our set of beliefs and values, right? And we interpret other people and their actions based on the social norms that we've absorbed as well. Good morning, Erica. Um, So it's important for us to understand what these social messages are because they influence our behavior and they influence the way that we see the world. Okay. Yeah, I think I just said that. That's good. Um, and finally, the point I want to make here is that social messages differ somewhat depending on the social groups you belong to. Okay, so your gender, your sexuality, your race, your ethnicity, your religion, all of those things will affect what kind of social messages you receive. Okay, and so to some degree, we will all get some of the same social messages, right? So if you live in Canada, for instance, you will be exposed to, if you live in Canada, you'll be exposed to all of the social messaging that is circulating around Canada. But if you, different social groups will also be exposed to different types of social information. And so the easiest example of this, and you can think about this in Canada or in your own country, is between boys and girls, between men and women. Every culture socializes men to be different, in a different way than they socialize women, right? And I think we all kind of know this. As boys or as men, we're taught to act a certain way, to be a certain way, to like certain things. And it's the same thing with girls, right? As girls, we're socialized, not we, girls are socialized to be a certain way. They're socialized to kind of like certain things. And so, depending on what social group you belong to, if you're a boy or a man or a girl or a woman, you will experience different message. You'll be exposed to different messages, and as a result, the messages that everybody receives in society you will perceive them differently as a woman or as a man. Okay. Hopefully that makes some sort of sense, but I think it will make more sense going forward. Okay. So that brings us to the film I want to watch. And so this is a fairly popular film. I think we talked about it a little bit yesterday. I think I asked who had seen it, and I think most people said they had not, although some people said they did. I think it's a pretty fun, entertaining film. Again, it's not really a film that's aimed at me, but it's entertaining, and more importantly, it is a great way to talk about some of the things that we are talking about in terms of socialization. And it's also a very good film in order to talk about the next thing we'll talk about, which is oppression and power. And so kind of what I'm going for here is that the film takes place in a high school. And so as you'll see, this young woman who's played by Lindsay Lohan, she's going to come to a new school, and she is basically unsocialized. Okay, so you can imagine the high school kind of like a little society, and I think high schools kind of are like little societies sometimes. She kind of enters this new society, but she doesn't know any of the social rules. She doesn't really know the values or the behaviors or the norms that are circulating within this school, within this society. And so she kind of has to learn them, okay? And so she's going to enter this new social environment. She's going to have to be socialized. She's going to have to learn all of the social rules and norms that govern this little society. She's going to be exposed to different social groups. And we're going to see some elements of social stratification. We're going to see some use of power, all kinds of things. And so the movie's pretty entertaining. It's pretty funny. But it's a really good illustration of some of the things that we have talked about and some of the things that we will talk about. Okay, so Haneen is here. Good morning, Haneen. And Jimmy is here as well. Good morning, Jimmy. So here's what we'll do for this film. Okay. I have some questions that I would like to ask you based on the film, and I put those questions in two places. So the questions are in Student Portal under Course Documents, and they're also in Microsoft Teams under files. There's a little folder inside files called class materials, and you'll see it in there. Good morning, Caleb. You'll see the questions in there, and I think I've got, I don't know, 8 or 9. And so I would like you to answer those questions in the process of watching the movie, okay? Have you seen my message? It was the first one. Oh, yeah, I saw it. Did I not say good morning to you? If I didn't, Baha, good morning. Sorry. If that's what you mean. Right, so the questions are there. I'd like you to answer the questions, and here's how you can see the movie if you don't know already, okay? So if you go to the library, so if you go into the Columbia College website and you go to the library, you'll see that if you click on Find Materials, because that's what you want to do, you want to find materials, and if you click on Streaming Videos, it will take you here to these databases. Whoops, I've got my little pointy finger in the wrong place. The thing you want to press is the first thing, Criterion on Demand. That's the first one that shows up. And when you press on that, it'll take you to here. You'll have to sign in with your college email address and password first. But once you get there, you can just search for Mean Girls and it will show up. Okay, so I'll just back up a little bit. You're just going to go to the college website. You're going to find materials. You're going to click on Streaming Videos, and then you're going to click on Criterion on Demand, and then you should be able to search for it and it should come up. Okay. Does that sound easy enough? Does that make sense? Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down, or a question if you have one. Okay, Karen says thumbs up. That's good. Okay, got it. Eric is good. She's okay, all right. Hanine's good, all right. Okay, Sam's good, awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, Casey's good. What is after going to the library? After the library, you're going to go to Find Materials. Find Materials. Jenna's good. Yeah, so library, Find Materials, Streaming Videos, Criterion on Demand. 4 things. Okay, so I think everyone is good. Here's what we'll do. So I'll give you a few minutes to start watching, and maybe we'll watch, let's watch 45 minutes of the film today, okay? So I'll give you 5 minutes to kind of get organized. That'll take you to 25, and then that'll take us to 9:10. I'll give you a little break, 10, 9:20. So let's meet back here on YouTube at 9:20, and so that'll be in an hour. We'll meet back here and we'll talk about the first 45 minutes of the film, and then any questions that we can answer. Okay, so I'll leave you to it. Go find the film, Columbia College Library, Find Materials, Streaming Videos, Criterion on Demand. Look for Mean Girls. There's questions on Student Portal or on Microsoft Teams, and we'll check back here on YouTube in an hour and we'll see what we think. Okay, so if you have any questions, I will be on Microsoft Teams in the meantime, but yeah, so go watch 45 minutes of the movie and enjoy. Okay. Okay, and we're back. So we should have watched 45 minutes of the movie. I'm hoping you have some ideas about what's going on in this film. But first, let me ask you, and maybe you can let me know in the comments, how is it? Is it good? Are you enjoying it? Is it terrible? Is it so-so? What's your what's your feeling on it? Good movie, bad movie, okay? What do you think? If anyone's there, I hope people are there. Casey, okay, good movie. That's good. I don't mind it either, actually. I've seen it a bunch of times now since I've shown it in this class, but yeah, that's a good one. I like it. Other thoughts? Good, bad, funny, not funny? Maybe another question you could answer is, um, it's a little bit old. The movie's about 16 years old now, but does it kind of feel like high school? Is it kind of roughly similar to your experience in high school, or is it not? I think it's supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be. Um, it's supposed to align, I think, with most people's experience of high school. But I'm curious to know if it kind of resonates with you that way, if it feels like high school or not so much. What do you think? Hmm. Uh, to some extent, maybe. Okay. Okay. Um, the groups are kind of real but exaggerated. Yeah, I think that's true, and I think that's maybe one of the things that is maybe common to all high school is that students kind of put themselves into groups, and I think you're right, Karen. Here, the groups are very exaggerated and very kind of they're a bit of a caricature, right? But that's probably true. I think when I went to high school, there was definitely certain sort of clusters of people, although they weren't so easily identified as in the movie. Um, okay, it sounds like we're not going to have too many other comments on that. So let me just jump into the first question that I asked you. And so the first question I put it up in the live chat there. So Lindsay Lohan's character Katie, she comes from. Sam says good movie. Okay, that's good. Um, Katie has come from Africa, right? Her parents are scientists doing some sort of biological research there, and they have educated her themselves. But then they come back to the United States, and Katie is kind of dropped into um, a high school environment, which she's never really encountered before. So the school has a bunch of norms, right? The rule or the school has a bunch of social rules, and Katie's not. Um, she doesn't really know them at all. So what kind of social rules does she not know? What kind of mistakes does she kind of make in the first part of this movie? And that's just when she kind of arrives at school. What kind of rules does she not know? What kind of rules does she not know? Um, Yeah, so eating inside the classroom, right? So she has no experience with this, and she's not really aware that she can't really eat in class, right? Although I don't mind it in my classrooms, but what else? Give me more. Give me more. Give me more. Give me more. Other social rules that she does not understand. Um, yeah, going outside of class without saying, right? So she leaves to go to the bathroom, and the teacher stops her for some reason, which I always thought was bizarre anyway. I think if you have to go, you should just go, but we know how schools are, right? Um, yeah, Karen says where to sit, right? So she comes into the class and she's unsure about where to sit, and so all the other students know they know where people normally sit, they know who likes to sit together, and so she's kind of completely unsure of where to fit herself in, right? Which I think is probably very similar to what's going on for her at the beginning of that movie anyways. She's not sure where she fits in the sort of social environment of the school, and she's trying to figure it out. And it's the same thing with the classroom. Yeah. um, yeah, that she had permission to go out of class. Yeah, she doesn't realize that, right? And so she leaves and kind of gets in a little bit of trouble for that. Yeah, the lavatory pass thing. So um, no food in class. Oh yeah, yeah. She's discouraged from reading ahead, right? She's not used to the fact that classes kind of proceed at a certain pace. She's just used to going at her own pace. And yeah, she's not even allowed to use green pen, which seems ridiculous. If you're sleepy, that's okay. I'm actually a little sleepy this morning too. Um, okay, so Katie encounters she encounters this new school environment, and let me just see what I asked you here. Okay, and there's all these social rules um, within the school, and she doesn't know and she doesn't understand. And so the question, of course, is why? Why doesn't she understand these rules? Why doesn't she know where to sit? Why doesn't she know about the lavatory pass or the green pen or food in food in class? Why doesn't she know those things? Why doesn't she know those things? Yeah, she never learned them, says Karen, and um, yeah, she hasn't learned them because she's just come to a new school, right? Um, let's see if we can get one more thing or two more things. Um, yeah, she's been educated. She's been taught in a totally different environment, right? Her parents have been doing all of her education. Now she's in this new environment, right? Um, yeah. So if you think about it, Katie's kind of confused, and she doesn't know what to do and what not to do and how to behave and how to act. She doesn't know all those things because she hasn't been socialized, right? She comes from a totally different social environment. She's been dropped into this new one, and she needs to be socialized, right? She needs to be taught this little society. She needs to be taught their beliefs and values and norms, right? She needs to be taught all of these things. And I think Damien, the big gay guy, Damien says, um, at one point he says, "Oh, you'll get socialized," and he kind of is meaning something else. But in a way, that's literally true. She does need to be socialized. She does need to sort of learn the rules of this She needs to know the rules of this society, right? So the next question I'll ask you here is that we see, okay, Baja's back, good, okay. We see in the high school that the film is composed of a number of different social groups, okay, and we are kind of introduced to these groups as we go into the cafeteria at lunch, right? We see all these different groups, and so what are some of these groups? What groups do we see in the cafeteria? What social groups are there? Come on, guys. What social groups are there? Oh yeah, okay. So Casey's got a bunch of them. Good, good. Yeah. So there's the Asian nerds are in there, right? There's cool Asians. There's desperate wannabes. There's the jocks, right? The football players. There's the plastics, of course, which are the three girls that are the main social group in this movie. Who else? Other social groups in this film. Um, there's the band people, right? There's the band geeks. Um, who else is there? Yeah, there's the Asian. We've got the Asian nerds, the jocks. We've got the cool Asians. That's good. Um, we've got the girls that eat their feelings, right? We've got the girls that don't eat anything. Yes, that's good. Girls who eat their feelings, girls who don't eat anything. The burnouts, right? The kids who are always smoking marijuana. Who else do we have? Who else do we have? Um, yeah, the fancy looking dominating groups. So those are the plastics, right? Um, who else? I think there might be a couple more. Might be a couple more. Okay, I think there's the unfriendly black hotties, right? And Janice kind of jokes the coolest people will ever meet. So that's Janice and Damien, but that's not really a group. I think they're just she's just making a joke. But where I'm kind of leading with this, now that we've got all of those different groups identified, my question is that how do people kind of become members of a group in this? Yeah, the girls who enjoy food, they're definitely in there. Yeah. How does one become a member of the group? And so the question is, if you walked into this cafeteria just like Katie does, how would you kind of know which group you belong to? How would you know which group you belong to here? How do the groups seem to be organized? What determines who belongs in what group? Let's see what you think here. So Casey says probably based on social status and gender, right? So We see that a little bit, right? The plastics are certainly all girls, right? There's no guys in that group. And their social status is one that's quite high, right? They get a lot of, they have a lot of power and status in that society, right? The jocks, of course, are all guys, right? They're all football players. Um, so, Characteristics, right? So you have to be the same as the people in the group. And physical attractiveness has to do with it as well, right? That's a good point, Karen. So the plastics, even though they don't say it, the plastics are all pretty, right? The jocks are probably all good-looking guys. The unfriendly black hotties are all hot, right? It's right there in their name. Um, Maybe because of your way of thinking. Yeah, maybe because of the way you dress or the way you act, right? So there's, in terms of the way you act or the way you kind of think, maybe we could turn that into kind of confidence and cool factor, right? So the plastics and the jocks and the unfriendly black hotties and the cool Asians, they've all got confidence, right? They've all got kind of attitude, and they act in a confident way. Whereas some of the other groups are not so confident, right? They're not so cool, I guess, if you will. Yeah. So, and there's maybe one more thing that is one more thing that we should mention is, um, let's see. Well, that's okay. It's part of my job, but you're gonna get there. Um, the other thing is that race seems to be a part of this as well, right? The unfriendly black hotties are black, right? The cool Asians are Asian. The Asian nerds also Asian, right? So these social groups within the school, at least the ones that we see here, um, are seem to be separated out in terms of sort of social status or kind of how cool they are. They seem to be separated out to some degree by gender. They seem to be separated out by race, right? So kind of social status and gender and race and maybe even physical attractiveness seems to separate out the groups in this society, right? Those are um, within this school anyway, seems like the important parts of people's social identity. So that's kind of interesting. Um, so my next question here is that can you describe the social stratification that is happening here? And so what I'm asking is which social groups in this school have power and status and which ones don't? So let's start out with the powerful groups. Who has power, do you think, in this school? Who do you think has power? Who has status? Who do people look up to or respect or fear? Who has social power in this school, do you think? Baha says the plastics, definitely, right? The plastics they have a lot of social power. They can do whatever they want, and everybody seems okay with it, right? There's that one girl at the beginning who says, she says Regina George punched her in the face once, and it was awesome, right? So that's a lot of social power when you punch someone in the face and they think it's great, right? Casey says the plastics are probably have a lot of social power. The cool Asians have social power. The jocks have power. Erica says the good-looking ones and the rich. Yeah, so the plastics probably fit into that category. Definitely in terms of good-looking and rich. Maybe the jocks are a little bit good-looking as well. Who knows? The plastics, yep, definitely. Karen says the plastics and the jocks have social power. The cool Asian kids And the unfriendly black hotties, yeah, they probably have social power as well, right? So what about the groups that don't have social power? Which groups do you think are the ones that are kind of on the bottom level of society? Sorry, I'm just going to get rid of that. On the bottom level of society in this school, who doesn't have social power, who doesn't get any kind of social respect? Who doesn't get social respect here? Baha says a couple things here. In that school, the meaner you are and the more attractive you are. Unfortunately, it's the same for most schools. Yeah, so there's real value in this school, and I don't know about other schools. There's truth to this. We really seem to give power to people who are good looking, right? And so the plastics seem to be able to do whatever they want just because they're pretty, right? On the bottom layer of society, Baha says, yeah, the nerds, the Asian nerds will be kind of a group that doesn't have a lot of social power in this school. The Asian nerds are probably on the bottom. The plastics, so note people love more people. You might have to explain that one to me, Sam. I think I might have lost your meaning there. Yeah, Katie's real friends are not on the top of society, and they kind of exist almost on their own, right? They're not really part of any of the bigger groups. They're Janice and Damien are just kind of tied together and kind of float around on the edges, right? But yeah, they're probably not high in the social hierarchy. More people, more than hate. Yeah, I think I know what you're saying, maybe, Sam. Kind of the idea that, well, maybe what you're saying here is that you don't always love the people who have power, right? And so people might give respect to the plastics. They might fear the plastics, or the jocks for that matter. But just because you fear them and sort of know that they have social power, it doesn't mean that you necessarily like them, right? So I'm thinking that's what you're saying. Let me know if I'm right or wrong. But yeah, just because someone has social power, just because they're on the top of this social hierarchy, doesn't mean that they are liked by everyone, right? And certainly, Janice does not like the plastics in any way, and there's probably other kids at school who don't as well. Okay, I think we're doing all right. What I wanted to show you with that section of the film anyway is the idea that we're going to continue in this course to talk about how societies have different social groups within them. And in real life, we'll be talking about gender and sexuality and race and religion and things like that. Those are kind of the social groups, and the idea that those social groups have different amounts of power and opportunity. Okay, they are able to do different things. Some groups have more power, some groups have less. And we see the same thing happening in the high school here in Mean Girls, and maybe even in other high schools as well. We have different social groups that have different amounts of power. Okay, and so we'll continue to talk about that in this course, but one of the things that Mean Girls does really well is show how this kind of thing operates. Okay, so unless you have any questions, we only have a few minutes left here. I will remind you tomorrow that we're going to do our first oral quiz, and so it'll be on Microsoft Teams. Like I mentioned, it will be a video call, so make sure your camera's on so I can see you and we can make eye contact. That'll be good. I'll ask you one question or maybe two questions. You'll sort of tell me what you know, and then we'll go from there. And we'll just do one at a time, all right? Um, yeah, I think that's good. Unless you have any questions, I think I'm going to sign off there. Um, for my comparative cultures students, I'll see you in 15 minutes or so. And for just social justice students, I'll see you tomorrow. We'll do the quiz, and then when we're done the quiz, we'll pick up Mean Girls again, okay? Okay, so that's it. Study hard, and I'll see you tomorrow, okay?